Hey friends, your pal Mike Shea from Sly Flourish here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. In this weekly show, I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my Sunday D&D game. In this case, we are on the first session of Scarlet Citadel. Scarlet Citadel is a hardcover campaign adventure written by Kobold Press that uses the 5th edition D&D rules, and we had our session 0 last week, and this week we are going to be diving straight in. This show, like all of the work of Sly Flourish, is brought to you by the patrons of Sly Flourish. Patrons get access to all kinds of exclusive material, exclusive adventures, tips to help them run their D&D games, an exclusive Discord channel, and access to the monthly Patreon Q&A. If you want to help support shows like this, you can do so by becoming a patron of Sly Flourish. The link is down in the show notes below. Yeah, we had a good session 0 last week. So last week we wanted to do two things in my gaming session. So my gaming session runs from noon to 3 on Sunday afternoons. And last week, I wanted to spend time talking to the players about how they felt about our Numenera campaign, which we ended. If you want to know all about their response to the Numenera campaign, my own feelings about ending the Numenera campaign, and how it ended, you can see the Numenera video and playlist. It is linked in the show notes below. It's also on the Sly Flourish video channel. So we're not going to be talking about Numenera today. And the other half of our discussion was doing a session 0 for Scarlet Citadel. And in this case, the session 0 was a completely just session 0. We did not do any sort of adventure. Normally when I run a session 0, a lot of times when I do a session 0, I do half of the session about what we're going to do, building characters, doing all that sort of stuff. And then I usually try to jump into the campaign. I usually try to start with some kind of intro encounter. And I've done that very successfully in many campaigns before. But I want to, this time, because I wanted to spend about half the time talking about the Numenera campaign, I did just the session 0. And then today is the first time that we're actually going to get into the game. So now I need to figure out what that's like. So we are going to start off with our Notion template. I have a brand new Scarlet Citadel Notion template here. I'm going to generate a new session planning template. So for anybody who's wondering what tool I am using for my session planning, what I am doing is using Notion. You can find out all about how to use Notion for your campaign planning and get your own Lazy DM Notion template to build your own campaigns in the show notes below. So yeah, we click a session planning template. So we have our characters for our session template here. Already I can see that I have to modify the thing. I actually don't have sheets for a lot of people. I might have some sheets for them, but we can talk a little bit about our characters for today's game. So I generated a new session planning template, and then today's session is 9 October. So that works. And so, yeah, last time we talked about the characters, it was really, it's always kind of funny when I run a session 0 for character creation. There definitely is a little bit of back and forth, and people don't really know what to do, and no one wants to kind of jump on making a character at once. They kind of I'll make characters based on other people. There's a little bit of apprehension, and I don't know a great way of kind of handling that process. There's probably a better, more structured way that we could build characters together than me saying well, okay, now everybody talk about what kind of character you want. I don't know what that is yet. And because I don't run that many session 0s, it's hard to experiment. As you try something, it doesn't work. So our characters today, we have Dorn Greycastle. Dorn is played by Joe. Joe always plays a character from the Greycastles, whatever. He has an empire of characters known as the Greycastles that have played in just about every campaign. I don't think it happened in Numenera, but it happened in just about every campaign that worked out. And from Dorn Greycastle is a shade. He's a fighter shade that died and came back, not as a corporeal person. He apparently made poor decisions in his life, doesn't understand where he came from, tried to reintegrate in a new way, and hides the fact, manner is M-A-N-N-E-R, hides the fact that he's dead, doesn't quite remember everything, not everything was right in his previous life. A tether has been broken, trying to find out what it is to move on. And he has a thirst he cannot slake since he doesn't eat or drink. He's hungry for something. I don't have all of their info yet. One of the things that I'm going to do today is I'm going to ask them please take a picture of your character sheet and send it to me. Because we're using all Kobold Press material, the material that we're using is the Player's Handbook, the Tome of Heroes, and Midgard Heroes as our source books for character creation. And that means most of them are using either paper character sheets or a PDF character sheet instead of using something like D&D Beyond. So we're not using D&D Beyond as our campaign. I'm not setting up a D&D Beyond campaign for it. And we'll see how that goes. I know at least one player. I think most players really like D&D Beyond, or most of the players like D&D Beyond. But I think that There's some that really, really are missing it. They just played a campaign where they didn't get to use it, and now they don't get to use it again. We're going to see how that goes. So that's Joe's character. We have Garbelt Hoovish. Garbelt, I think I do have a character sheet for Garbelt. Look at that, I do. So Garbelt is a mushroom person. He's a rogue cat burglar mushroom folk. And he, or they, I think they don't have a gender. So the funny angle on this campaign is most of the people are dead or follow the dead or are kind of drawn to the dead. And in his case, he's drawn to the dead because he's a mushroom. So he kind of like, hangs out with the rest of the group because the rest of the group are kind of dead folk. And he's like, I like dead folk. Dead folk make, they're good food. So he's kind of following them around. He's a scout for a clan looking for a new place for plentiful food and darkness, looking to colonize the Darkland. So he's hoping that there's like good, down in the Scarlet Citadel is a good place to go to build a mushroom farm for the rest of his people. He's following the characters because they're interesting and some of them smell like death, and he likes that. And he sends out clouds of spores to see what's going on where. So that's really sort of his stuff. And I don't think I'm going to bother doing it on the show, but I'm going to mark his trained skills, his languages, and other things in my little cheat sheet here. But I'll do that another time. There's no point in spending the show worrying about that. I'll fill that out as we go. Who else? So that's Garbelt. My player Jay, I don't think he's here today, and he sent 2 different characters that he's considering. So we'll probably talk about those 2 characters with the rest of the group and let him know, like, hey, we think this one would work really well. But he doesn't have a character yet, so I don't have anything for him. And I don't think he is here today. So then we have Malarkey Jones. Malarkey, which is a great name, is a female tiefling warlock, follows one of the other characters. So roll the dice. And so she is she's a warlock patron of the Weird Weaver. And the Weird Weaver is like chaos. The Weird Weaver is, this interesting god that's about randomness, about the randomness and chaos of the universe. And literally like rolled a die and ended up that die roll connected her to Shrink Skibbers, one of the other characters. Her parents think that she's perfect and excellent. She is not. I think Jerry has he wrote a lot of backstory, and loved by her parents, but is a tiefling to parents that are not tieflings, but they still think that she's perfect anyway. And she has kind of followed through and came to work with the Weird Weaver through 3-card Monty, fell in love with 3-card Monty as this element of chaos, and is now sort of can make a living through simple chance. And got the notice of the Weird Weavers, and is kind of also following one of the other characters. So pretty interesting backstory here. So that is Malarkey Jones. Again, I'll have to get a character sheet so I can fill in all the information. We then have Roomsalith. Roomsalith. I just got Sharon's character sheet for Roomsalith today. Actually, I got it yesterday. She handed me a paper copy and said, "Here's Roomsalith's character sheet." And I said, "Great, I'm going to take a picture and put it in Notion." She went, "Oh." Like we were so close to just paper-based. So Roomsalith is a frost elf fighter, and a school of the liminality suggests that some things dead are better left dead. Death is not so bad. Why do we work so hard at not dying? The void stares back. It's kind of her interesting parts about her background. And her background is Gravekeeper. I believe we discovered that she is the one who buried and then Dorn came back. So Roomsalith also has a sort of connection to the dead. One of the things that I think is really interesting when we were figuring this out, we were looking at all the characters, is that they have there's this whole central connection around death and rebirth, or death and resurrection, death and return. And that is, I think, going to be a big premise of this campaign, probably a big premise of how these characters all came together. So that's Roomsalith. Then we have Shrink Skibbers. Great name. Played by Juliet. Shrink Skibbers was a rat folk? Was a rat folk who was sacrificed and then resurrected again. Again, at least 2 of the characters have died and returned. And then I think many of the other characters are sort of tied to that death and return. And I think one of the characters that Jay is considering is also a character who died, a clockwork who might have died and come back. And so that could be interesting too. Was sacrificed being an evil cult who was bound to a particular god, and whatever the evil cult is operating in Scarlet Citadel is likely the one that bound Shrink to this god, and the god sent Shrink back and said, "You need to help. I'm trapped, and I want to send you back into the world to figure out how to break my to break my trap. So, and there's also that, and the Weird Weaver, Chaos, Chance, Luck, I think. Yeah, so the Weird Weaver is also kind of connected. I don't know if the Weird Weaver is the one who's trapped. Yeah, it looks like it. So I think that's kind of a fun angle too, is that Shrink Skibbers was killed and then sent back into the world by the Weird Weavers, and then the other character, Malarkey, followed Shrink because of that connection to the Weird Weavers, that the information just sort of brought together. So that's Shrink. So those are the characters. I think we might only have 4 in our session today. And so that kind of binds what I want to do in today's session. But those are the characters. And I think, we're still learning a lot about the characters, right? It takes time. Like, you get the backgrounds, and this is one of the tricky things about getting too much background too early on, is that bringing it together, you can have too much backstory that you then can't dissect when it's like, well, you're still level 1 just figuring out where the adventure is going to go. A lot of times the backgrounds sort of fade away as the new stuff they do works. But I think this kind of connection to weird, death and life is kind of this connection to like death and life, I think, is a real good, strong connection here. So we have our characters. Again, I'll have to fill in all this data. I can do that later. I could probably do it a little bit during the game or figure that out. So what is today's strong start? Again, we've already done our session 0. It probably can't hurt to have people refresh like who they are. But I think my idea for a strong start is in the book Warlock Lairs. There is an adventure. I think it's the first adventure in Warlock Lairs. This was recommended to me on the Sly Flourish Discord channel, called The Light of Memoria. And The Light of Memoria is actually set right near, I think it's actually set very close to Scarlet Citadel. It's actually set right around Red Tower, right? It's actually designed. This adventure takes place outside the village of Red Tower in the White Forest. Abandoned archway in a pocket dimension. However, it can be adapted to any location. So I really, it was like, hey, well, that fits perfectly. This is going to be really great, and I like it. And it's got cool art. Look at that art. I don't think I want to run the whole adventure though, because I already have an adventure. So I want to use it as a starting scene and kind of get the characters together and get us excited and get us doing stuff. But I want to use it as sort of a seed to kind of get them into Red Tower and then get them connected to the rest of the Scarlet Citadel. So I don't, as an adventure goes, it would take probably it looks like it would take a couple of sessions. But I think if I sort of shrink down the pocket dimension idea, I love it's oubliette, right? I love this concept of a pocket dimension oubliette that's sort of a breakaway from the Shadow Road, which is nearby. I think that's really cool. I love this concept. And yeah, Galandril here in the chat says that they ran it and that it took you 3 2-hour sessions. That's 6 hours. That's more than I want to spend on an adventure that isn't the main adventure that I want to run. So I think I'm going to instead kind of turn it into an encounter. An interesting encounter, an interesting scene that might end up taking half the session, but I don't want to burn a whole bunch of sessions on it. But boy, this art is so good. So my idea is that this archway, let's see, Memoria, Forgotten Ruin, mostly vanished by. So we'll call it the Arch of Memoria. I like that. So we're going to start off with the Arch of Memoria calls to the characters. They find themselves drawn to this place, right? And when it comes to locations, we have the Arch of Memoria. And I think we're going to make this a location. We have Red Tower. We're going to create a new location. And for funsies, we're going to grab this piece of art. Boop. Because that looks really cool. And we're going to put in that other piece of art. And this is from Warlock Lairs. The Warlock, what is it called? Into the Wilds. And the page number is, oh, that's the wrong one. Page number is page 8. Cool. So we're going to focus a lot on this. Then we put the cool art. Now I got a location. Go back to my notes. And down in locations, I have the new Arch of Memoria link. Very good. So the Arch of Memorial calls to all the characters. I think we're going to have, they arrive to find some bandits dorking with an artifact called the Light of Memoria. I like the idea. There's a lot of ideas that I'm going to take from this adventure, but I'm going to kind of twist it and turn it and mallet and, pull it like taffy until it's the kind of encounter I want to run, because it's not the adventure, it's the encounter. So that, I think they show up, they see the archway, they know that there's some kind of power there, it's very old. They see that they're dorking with this artifact, like shaking it and trying to wave, and they're like, somebody's in there. And the bandits are bad, they're bad people. And I think that they're more than happy. Like, I think that the fun bit about the character, the villains, I wonder, do they have a name in this? I don't know if the bandits. So we have Demika, who's a bandit. This is all first level, so we're just going to keep them normal bandits. Probably one bandit per character. Probably sounds about right, I think. I don't know if they have a name. They need a name. Right, all bandit groups call themselves something. We'll drop over to my random names, and we're just going to pick the Gray Runners. See, right away, you grab one, the Gray Runners. Very cool. Done. The Gray Runners are trying to use an artifact to open the gate, to open the Arch of Memoria. I think my idea, which I'm stealing some motivation from that adventure, is maybe when they're dying, maybe one of the bandits will sort of grab the Light of Memoria and shake it, and maybe blood flows on it or something, and that activates it, and it ages them. They do the temple of the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Like, they grow and their hair grows and they turn old and wither away and die, and the portal kind of opens. And like a hand reaches out, like a humanoid hand reaches out, like, help me. One of the bandits dies of old age, and the portal opens into the oubliette. I don't know if I'm spelling oubliette right. Oubliette. Oubliette. I love that word so much. It's such a wonderful word. So they activate the oubliette. A hand reaches out. And I think this could be an opportunity, begging for help. The characters can pull them free, but some shades come out, some shadows with them. And now they're fighting shadows. Let's take a look at shadows. Probably only a couple of shadows. Shadows are bad. Shadows are CR 1/2. 16 hit points. They're resistant to non-magical, and they drain strength, and they do 9 damage. This could be really, really brutal. We'll do half the number of shadows as characters. But I think, I don't know, like, I think I'm going to reinforce to them that the shadow, like, I mean, they're only CR 1/2, and my rule says you don't go more than CR 1/2, but boy, CR 1/2, and shadows in particular, are really nasty for CR 1/2. So they can be, do they kill you if they drain, they kill you if they drain their strength completely, right? But they don't just kill you outright if they drop you to 0. So shadows are dangerous. But I think that, we'll face some shadows. But that also, I think one of the things is, like, Scarlet Citadel is a deadly campaign, a deadly adventure. And I will clarify to them, like, these shadows are really nasty and could kill you. But I think it's kind of cool. And maybe I'll only go with 1 shadow. Maybe it'll be 2. And maybe their hit points will be lower or whatever. They're pretty nasty. So the shadows come out. Then meet, assuming they survive, meet the NPC. Head to Red Tower. Explore Red Tower and begin their first journey to the Scarlet Citadel. Now, what I need is clear motivation for the characters to go to Scarlet Citadel. That's one of the things I need to plant in this adventure. Like, what is it about what they learn here that makes them want to go to the Scarlet Citadel? Why do they want to go there? What is their motivation to go there? And it could be that, like, they hear. So we have a couple of characters who are tied to this particular god. Let me go back. I think Malarkey Jones was, and that god is the Wind Reaver, right? The Weird Weaver. So I think the Weird Weaver is going to kind of be an NPC. Trapped god and patron of Malarkey Jones. And who else? Somebody else had a connection. Shrink Skibbers. So I think the voice of the Weird Weaver could be a good motivation. The characters hear the voice of the Weird Weaver, kind of drawing them to this place. Like this oubliette is sort of bound. And maybe the NPC. So if we let's look in the Warlock layers and see, like, they rescue somebody, right? So they get into the Arch. Timon, the hapless apprentice. So Timon. So we can there's a lot of like different gods and things in here, but I think we can tie a lot of this to Timon. But I think this might be a fun NPC for the characters to sort of meet. And instead of an apprentice, they are a follower of the Weird Weaver. So that could be a fun sort of connection. And maybe they've aged. Like maybe they don't look, like Timon doesn't look, age some time. I think that, let's see. Let's read a little bit more. Archway before sending the apprentice to investigate. There's this other NPC, Kagoth Z. Gellert the Gruesome. So Gellert the Gruesome that's the villain of Scarlet Citadel. I don't think we're ready to reveal that yet. So the idea that Timon is tied to Gellert the Gruesome is probably not something I want to do. But the idea that Timon is a follower of the Weird Weaver and believes that, also recognizes that the Weird Weaver is trapped and thinks that somehow the bonds and the chains that trap the Weird Weaver are down in the depths of the Scarlet Citadel. That's a pretty solid motivation. If you're going down to our secrets and clues. Timon believes that the bonds binding the Weird Weaver, I think we're going to call it the Weird Weaver, lie in the depths of the Scarlet Citadel. Something down there is draining the energy from the Weird Weaver, and it must be broken to save them. That's kind of neat. There's a big juicy hook, I think. So what other things, let's see, any other details about the Arch of Memoria? I got this one. It's like this. I'm just stealing some secrets directly out of the book. Memoria is a forgotten ruin, mostly vanished into the lowland bogs north of Red Tower. Its obscurity is ironic, for once it was a settlement dedicated to Nemezine, goddess of memory, who likewise suffers unhappy fate. Centuries ago, a mysterious couple of benign necromancers founded Memoria after fleeing elven authority and condemnation in Kamei, settling in the White Forest to take advantage of the area's potent ley lines. So we want some secrets to stay secret. Like, we're not ready to reveal certain things. And since these are all what they can learn in the next game, we're not going to say. But one of the things is there's some power in the White Forest drew the necromancers of Memoria, as it has drawn others to the region. Hey, my mom is here. Hi, Mom. So that's a nice, good, juicy secret and clue. The necromancers did not defile the dead, but rather they utilized necromancy. This is a good one. Hoping to create a utopia of peaceful coexistence for living and dead with the past and present side by side. This really fits the characters. This is a really solid. I love this because the characters are like, they're dead people, but they're nice. And they think like, necromancers who just want to talk to the dead. That's not so weird. Not like Empire of the Ghouls. These necromancers did not defile the dead, but rather the word utilize. I can't stand the word utilize. They used necromancy to interact with their ancestors, helping to create a utopia of peaceful coexistence for the living and the dead with the past and present side by side. Very good. To achieve this vision, the Memorians devised a relic called the Light of Memoria to create a bridge to the afterlife and light the way for their ancestor spirits to cross over to the mortal world. I like that, but I think we're going to simplify that the relic is broken, and now drains life from those who attempt to use it. Beautiful art in the corner. Oh yeah, the picture of red. That's the picture of Red Tower. So that's pretty good. Light is broken now. Attempts to use it. So they might hang on to this, but I don't think they're going to use it. Avoid blind Memorians. Power of the relic. Communal sacrifice. We're not going to do that. Survivor Memorians retreated to a nearby shadow gate, but the undead followed to prevent blah 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 blah. That kind of stuff. I think I'm going to skip. The other thing is the oubliette is a trap. It's a tiny pocket dimension of shadow lost in the wilds. Tiny pocket dimension of shadow. Formless and shapeless, and terrible things lurk in its depths. Was it created? I don't think they created the oubliette. I think they intended the oubliette wasn't intended to be. It was intended to be a gateway between the realm of the living and the realm of the dead. Oubliette was intended to be a gateway bridge between the living and the dead, but the damage to the light turned it into a shadowy prison. Best left alone. That's pretty good. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So I need more. So let's actually look at red. So I think that's a pretty solid scene, right? They show up at the tower. They see some bandits dorking around. The bandits like, oh, thank God, someone to fight. Because they're like the players that are upset about the fact that they're dorking around with a puzzle and they can't figure out and they'd rather just fight stuff. The bandits are that way. So the bandits are like, oh, thank God. We can just rob these people. And that's so much better than dicking with this stupid artifact. So they go to fight the characters. Characters beat them. One of the bandits will like grab the light and use it and they turn into old, and as they do, boom, the door of the oubliette opens, the archway opens, and a hand reaches, help me, help, and they can go and help him, and they pull him free. Shadows come out, they fight the shadows, like, oh my God, shadows. It goes up, and then they meet the Weird Weaver guy. Let's see. Timon. They meet Timon, the follower of the Weird Weaver. And then he explains like what he can explain a lot of these secrets. But we want to, this is all great, but now, and then we want to introduce the Scarlet Citadel. We want to introduce Red Tower itself. So let's take a look at Red Tower and get kind of familiar with it. I've read it before, but it always starts to get. Early construction was House Holzanger. So they built it. The people that were here, let's see, some dungeons were dug out with precision. Some are built. A human settlement of the White Forest. Blah, 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 blah. 250 years ago, the young Holzanger discovered a rich ley line tributary. I don't know if this stuff is common. It's hard to tell like which of this stuff is sort of the common knowledge or not. So I don't think we're going to dive too much into this, but how old is Red Tower is probably a good question. It was once a lodge. There was once a hunting lodge that then became a manor house for the Redleaf village. Then they built like a citadel out of like red stone that were nearby, but only the tower remains. And eventually the village that built around it was known as Red Tower. So that could be a secret. Red Tower was once an elven hunting lodge and then a manor for the Holzangers. I'm totally not spelling their name right. That's okay. Before it burned down, and only the last Red Tower of the dwarves who built it remains. The village refers it as Red Tower. Is that not right? No. Was it the manor that burned down? Or the manor is what became. So where'd the tower come from? So many words. So it became the village of Redleaf. A single tower of red stone remains from its older days. Surrounding tower just says, well, we have a tower and it's red. We're simple folk. Give it a simple name. So what other? Check page 23. For the rumors? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we can use this gossip table pretty well. The Red Tower was made from the bones and teeth of a fallen giant Melania and Helix slew. Blood soaked the stones there forever. That doesn't sound likely. Stones to build the Red Tower came from the ruins submerged beneath the pond to the north. Before they were covered in water and moss, there was a property to them that makes them red, possibly even strange magical energy protecting them from the ravages of time. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, the gossip table's a pretty good one. That's like good secrets and clues, some of which are not there. So then we're going to this is one of those things where it's tricky introducing a town because there are how many different locations in this town? I guess it's not terrible. There's only 13 locations in town. So, going through 13 is not the end of the world. And I'm going to give them this map that has the numbers on it so they can see that. And we can kind of describe each of them and then talk about which one they're most likely to want to deal with. But let's skim through these and see if there's any really interesting places that the characters are going to want to visit or that we want to kind of draw them to. So you have the stables, town hall and constable, and they can meet the mayor, Winslow Braz. Make a new NPC for him. I think there's a picture of him. He's a happy looking dude. Yay. I think that's him, right? If not, that dude looks like an awesome mayor. He looks like such the politician. Mayor of Red Tower. Whoops. The ruined Temple of Kors. Anything kind of interesting there? There hasn't been a priest in the temple in decades. I think that this might be where Timon kind of keeps, he's going to move in here, I think, the ruined Temple of Kors, and not really turn it into a temple because you don't make temples to randomness, but he's like, well, he'll operate out of here. Hasn't been a priest in temple in decades. Okay, nonetheless, some faithful still attend the high holy days, and the temple has, for the most part, been shown respect. So I think he might move to the ruined Temple of Kors. The Cage Tavern and Inn. Seeing if there's any other adventure-y sort of things. Warehouses for trade, the brewery, lumber mill, smithy. Very cool. Furrier and Tanner. The Red Tower, south of the smithy, past the gate. There's a squat stone tower. Defensive fortification, but also the town's namesake. The stones of the tower are somewhat faded, but still a deep crimson. Even Aradnia and Ambrosi at the Cage don't know how the tower is constructed. Theories and rumors about it abound. I don't think we need to normally I'd be like, what we should do is build a dungeon underneath the tower, secret chambers and secret dungeon. But I'm like, the whole book is a freaking dungeon. So no, we're not going to build a dungeon. We're going to hold ourselves back. We don't need to build a dungeon underneath every single tower. Temple of Rava, the gear goddess. Temple of the gear goddess is odd circular building. Temple of Rava is everywhere. And we can talk, I know about Rava because I'm running a lot about Rava in the other game. Who's Conrad? Conrad of Rumskalad lives here. Retired battle mage. Made a tidy fortune. He is like, I'm done with all that. Keeps himself paying for his privacy with the good graces he's purchased from the mayor. Battle mage bargain encounter. I like this guy, so I think he'll be a fun NPC. So we'll make a... Retired battle mage. He looks like a mean bastard. Let's look at the battle mage bargain encounters. That's from the random social encounters table. Invitation to Conrad's home. Always results of food and drink being regaled by Conrad's memories. Sales pitch to buy one of his treasures. Dabbles in magic item creation in spare time. Loves offloading them into the adventures since they are, not that he tells them, imperfect. Conrad claims the item charges 100 gold pieces. A lot of the party haggle him down to as much as 50. Every time he sells, the item is faulty. If the item fails after 1d4 uses, the enchantment on it is fading. Versus to a mundane item. So he makes bad magic items. I don't know if I'm going to do that. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going to bother with that. But he could be a source of he could be a way to buy and sell magic items. And he doesn't really say how he gets that opportunity. But he might be a way for them to pick up other items, for them to do, downtime activities to build magic items, things like that. He could be a handy source for that. Anything else that we want to do around here? Let's take a look at these other social encounters. Oh, there's a whole thing about these other outer places. There's the witch's hut. Let's take a look at some of these and make sure we get these in our head before we're... Tobias's hut, small hut cobbled together in loose stone. Elderly human and commoner once lived in Red Tower, but grew horrified by the complicity of the townfolk and lighting adventurers run to their slaughter in the Scarlet Citadel. The creature encounter table. So he warns people away. I like this dude. He's kind of fun. Tobias. He could be almost a reverse herald. What do you call somebody that warns people? I need a cool name for a guy whose job is to tell you to stay the hell away from a place. Doomsayer of the Scarlet Citadel. And I like the idea that his hut regularly gets raised by like owlbears. Isn't that one of the things that happens? 28 here. Yeah, the owlbear that knocks down Tobias's home. That can be a fun encounter. Why does it do it? The owlbear is in the process of knocking down Tobias, sniffing for food, reacts slowly. Yeah, I guess the owlbear just comes and trashes his home. So that's fun. We have Zula. Zula, Witch of the White Forest. And let's learn about Zula. No path leads to her cottage, but the woods northeast part of might notice stumble in her cottage. Hearth smoke. No one visits Zula unless they need special potions. And she's actually an agent of Gellert, right? So she's handy. But she could be an agent of Gellert, the gruesome, who's the main villain of this. So I think you got lots of NPCs. I don't know. We're going to play a lot of this by ear. They want to go explore a place, we'll explore it together. But I think the drive. So what's the drive what's the drive that's going to bring them to the Scarlet Citadel? Is the big question. Like, what takes them to level 0? Because that's the main thing. And I think it's that first idea that like I can hook at least like 3 of the characters by saying that they're trapped God. If the main plot, which sort of came up by this is a character driven thing, the players came up with this. I didn't come up with this. That the players said, one of the characters did it, and then the other ones kind of jumped on that there is a God, that God is trapped and being bound somehow, and that we don't know exactly how, but certainly the draw and the bonds of that they exist down in the Scarlet Citadel. If you want to find out more, you're going to have to head in there and figure out what's going on. I think that's kind of the big part of it. Let's take a look at what else we've got. So we've got our characters, we've got our strong start, we've got a bunch of scenes, we've got our secrets and clues, we've got some cool locations. We of course have Red Tower, region around Red Tower we can do there. We have our NPCs, whole bunch of NPCs, right? I don't even need to list them all. I could just click on that link and get them. The deadly encounter benchmark, so they are first level. And so we don't really bother with an encounter benchmark at first level because we know that almost everything is deadly, but you don't generally want to run any monster that's higher than challenge rating 1/2. A single challenge rating 1 might be acceptable, but it might also knock a character completely out with one volley of attacks. So we're not going to really bother with the deadly encounter benchmark or even listing up the monsters. We have bandits and we have shadows. Those are really the monsters for today's session. I think I am going to level them to second level. I don't know. I think I'm going to level them to second level before they go to level 0. I think I might level them to level 0 or to second level. There's a whole section on leveling in here, and it offers some like what levels are appropriate for what sections. Let me just reference that and get an idea about what the milestones are. Here we go. So the Ruined Citadel, which I think is the top level, is expected to be first level. The Dungeon and Crypt is meant to be first to second level. So I could take them. They don't want to stay at first level very long. So I'll probably level them to second level when? What's the milestone? I think the milestone is once they accept the quest. Boy, this one. Accept the quest to journey to the Scarlet Citadel. Level 2 milestone. Right? You want players and characters to behave a certain way, you tie benefits to that thing. So the idea is like, I think I will make it clear that once you have accepted the quest to journey to the Scarlet Citadel and break the bonds of the Weird Weaver. Accept the quest to journey to the Scarlet Citadel and break the bonds of the Weird Weaver. That's the level 2 milestone. Then the level 3 milestone is probably when they're second level. We'll keep them at second level is defeat. I think when they defeat the boss, let's take a look at the boss of level 1. So I think they might end up being level 1. It's the jailer, right? Or this mean bastard. So let's take a look at the jailer. I think he's probably got a stat block on the bottom back here. There's spells. Deep magic spells. Magic items. Does he have a stat block? Did I miss it? The jailer, here he is. 52 hit points, CR2. He makes 2 maul attacks, and he has the psychic core. So he looks like he's a good challenge for second level characters. I think he might be too easy at third. So I think defeating the jailer is the level 3 milestone. But they don't know who that is. So I think that will be, when they learn more about the jailer, then that will become the quest. You clarify to them that that's the quest. So I think that's pretty solid. I've got a good strong start. I've got my scenes. I've got a bunch of secrets and clues for them to learn. We're both going to kind of work through Red Tower and what's going on there. We'll play with the rumors, stuff like that. The treasure. So they have the Light of Markath, right? Or the Light of Memoria. So what can I think the Light of Memoria is sort of an artifact, but it's weakened and broken. And right now it can just cast light. You can use an action to cast a light cantrip. But I think it might grow in power. I think it might do other things too. We'll see. That might be a fun little artifact. But I don't know if there's any other magic items that they might pick up here. I don't know. Maybe, do I have I don't have it handy. I have a little generator that a friend of mine made. Let's see if I can find it here, because it's pretty great. It is here we go. Vault of Magic generator. So you say CR1 to 3, you roll, and it says, here are some things that you might find. A siege arrow, for example. Master Angler's Tackle. Wand of Giggles. The Ashwood Wand. Quill of Scribing. Wand of Windows. That sounds kind of fun. Let's take a look at the Vault of Magic. Wand of Windows. Clear crystal wand has 3 charges. You can use an action to expend 1 charge to touch the wand to any non-magical object. The wand causes a portion of the object up to 1 foot to become transparent. Any non-magical object. The wand causes a portion of the object up to 1 foot 6 inches, up to 1 foot and 6 inches, so 18 inches deep. So brick walls might not work, but a door might. Is it me, or is that really powerful? It feels really powerful to me, because you can peek into other rooms. But I guess if it's transparent, the ghouls on the other side are But that seems really powerful for a dungeon, because you can use that on every door. You can use it on walls. You can use it to see what's on the other side. I think the only trick is that they can see the other way. It doesn't actually become a window, but it means that you are broadcasting your location to anything that's on the other side. I think that's kind of fun. We'll stick that in there. Wand of Windows, page 103. And we can make this a page. Turn into page. Whoops. There we go. That's fun. Any other, let's see, golden treasure. We'll roll in the golden treasure at the time. We don't need to worry about it. So I think we are all set for today. I've got my notes. I mean, it's a session 1, so it's a little nerve-wracking. I'm nervous about it, but I think everything's going to be fine and cool. So I am excited to do it. So I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me today while I prepped my first session of Scarlet Citadel. It's going to be an exciting campaign. I'm really looking forward to it. Fun to get back to good traditional D&D. I'm excited for it. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed this show, you can help me out by subscribing to the Sly Flourish newsletter, where you will get access to a free adventure generator PDF plus a D&D article sent directly to your inbox every week. You can support me directly on Patreon, where you get access to all kinds of exclusive adventures, tips and tricks for running your D&D game, video previews, Discord access, all kinds of great stuff for becoming a patron of Sly Flourish. You can pick up my books, including Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, The Lazy DM's Workbook, and The Lazy DM's Companion at the Sly Flourish bookstore in beautiful offset printed versions. The link is in the show notes below for all of these. And you can subscribe to my videos on YouTube, like it, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, send it to your friends, let people know how much you enjoyed this video. Thank you all very much. Have a great day, and get out there and play some D&D.